So to review, what is it again?
To review, we are going to do Beyonce, Black is King.
Mm-hmm.
And then after that, around the 30-minute mark, we are going to discuss the pandemic and the decision that we have made for first semester for all three of our children as far as schooling goes.
Okay.
Okay.
I think I got it.
All right.
Welcome to the Hallspace Podcast. It's about connections. I'm your host, Dr. Rich Hall, and this is a weekly conversation about whatever and however I see to connect things. For people who want to connect, chat, and learn a thing or two about a thing or two. Without further ado, let's start the show. Okay, and welcome to episode 3.
Welcome back. Hey there.
Hey, so once again, I am Dr. Rich Hall, and this is the Hallspace Podcast, and my co-host,
Nicole Hall.
Yes.
Thanks for joining us.
Yes. And we're going to talk about some things. We're going to get into some things today. Yeah. So, without further ado, like what did you think of Beyonce, Black is King?
It was beautiful. It was absolutely visually beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
Being able to see Black and African and all the colors and all of the different locations. It was absolutely visually beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that I understood all of the artistic direction that they went into, but
yes.
I absolutely loved seeing people that look like me, look like you, look
beautiful,
like my kids.
Beautiful African
Black
people.
African people.
Not all African. I've since read that some of those people were Jamaican and actually African American or American.
Right. Different versions of us, but us in these beautiful situations, doing beautiful things.
Yes.
With power and integrity and just, it's just beautiful.
Yeah.
And
confidence, a lot of confidence on display.
There's a lot of confidence. There's a lot of just strength.
Yes.
And there were a number of underlying stories being told. Again, I'm not sure that I grasped everything, but there's some of the putting the baby into the basket,
which is very much Moses, right?
That's very much
Moses iconography.
Yes. So
she did a lot of like African / religious iconography. There was a lot of that in there.
She did. And maybe we should do a spoiler alert. If you haven't seen it, stop this podcast.
Yes.
Listen,
we're gonna pretty much talk about it in some depth. We're gonna
talk about it, and
that's gonna make you feel like we spoiled it for you.
Yeah. And I don't know that. I mean, honestly, it's so visual that even talking about it, there's still an experience to be had.
Yes.
Seeing it visually yourself. So you could probably listen to this and then go watch it and say, oh, okay, maybe now I understand, what they're talking about.
Yes, I do believe you will find yourself, watching it and thinking, okay, I know what they're talking about now. I know what this is for me.
Right. What did you think about it?
So I had so many thoughts. I was actually taking notes as I watched it.
I saw you taking notes, and I thought maybe I should also be taking notes.
You're gonna start doing your homework.
I am. I have to be ready, but this was last night, so I feel like there are so many things that resonated with me that were important to me, that those are the things that I will discuss that are,
Yeah, and everybody doesn't have to be like me. Everybody doesn't have to be a super nerd in these circumstances. But I knew, knowing me, like the day was going to happen, and then I would not be able to remember all the things I wanted to say. And I was having specific thoughts as I was watching it. And so one of the things I'm doing, if you want to start your own podcast, what I highly suggest is getting a show diary and writing things down as you have thoughts, because when the day comes and you're like, oh, I want to record today
and I want to discuss this.
Yeah. You won't remember all the things that you thought during the week because the week happened. So you won't always be aware of.
You don't want to miss those thoughts. You don't want to forget those thoughts. Sometimes, the older you get, you don't remember.
No. I know one of the things that's going to save me from full on, dementia, early onset at least, is how much I write things down
Same.
and set up patterns for myself so that it's like, it's Monday. You are this is expected of
Today,
you. So long as you keep that pattern.
Yes.
Then even if you start forgetting things, the reminder that it's Tuesday will help you know that this is the path for Tuesday. Now the problem will be something will happen and I'll be like, it's Tuesday, and I'll be like, no, it's Wednesday, and I'm like, but I thought it was
like
Tuesday.
It was Tuesday.
Yeah, which to be honest is my life right now.
It is.
What day is it?
What, honestly, every day, you guys, Richie works in his office and I work a number of places.
She works in 3 places in the house.
I do, with my laptop. Wherever I feel good, that's where I'm going to work.
Yeah.
And every day we're like,
she says wherever she feels good, but in reality, it's the bedroom, the living room, or the family room. She rotates through those rooms
wherever the kids
on a weekly
are not.
basis. The thing is, to also undermine her point here, is it doesn't matter, as we previously discussed, it doesn't matter where she is and where the kids are. They will find her.
They can smell where I am.
And they will convene where she is. So the kids also move from her bedroom to the living room to the family room. They do. Yes, they move with her everywhere she goes. So that's the room they're hanging out in for the week. And it doesn't matter if I'm like doing something in another room. Like I get the pretty much not necessarily left alone 100%, but like
not necessarily.
It's way rarer that they will convene all the time in my space. And that's sometimes because what I do have to tell them to get out because I have to take a phone call and it's privacy and all of that.
Yeah.
Whereas, she's on phone calls too, but they do not respect that. And no matter how many times I'm like, hey, get out of here, this lady's on a phone call, they're like, yeah, okay. I'm going to still stay within a 4-foot radius of her.
Well, Victoria, she knows my coworker. She's like, can I say hi to Archana? Listen, she doesn't want to talk to
you. She is at work too. She wants to talk to you as much as I want to talk to you now.
My coworkers are really great about it. They love it. My boss, he's got 2 kids about the same age as our 2 younger ones. So they get it, but it's still,
as an idea.
It
still feels intrusive no matter what.
It is very intrusive. We're trying to solve problems.
Real problems here.
Yeah. Don't get me wrong. We work for a bank. I'm not curing cancer, but I can't open your juicy juice right now. Okay.
But I want it open now.
Yes. I think the funny thing about it is wherever I move into the house, Victoria's like, oh, I found you.
Right. As if she discovered you. Yeah. You are just playing the game of keeping yourself away from Victoria, and whenever she wins, she lets you know.
Yep.
Yeah. And so that's sort of the current situation we know everyone who's working from home with kids is in.
Yeah.
Which is why later we'll talk a little bit more about, as we said, the anxiety around sending them to school. So back to Beyonce and my thoughts. First, didn't have to tell me that it was set in Africa. Like, was there a drop that said, hey, the entire story happens in Africa?
No.
Like I'm looking at the vistas and the water and the little basket, and I'm like, this is in Africa. And I don't know if I don't remember reading that it was going to be, the whole thing was going to be set in Africa. I thought, it being Beyonce, it's probably going to be like a worldwide phenomenon or spectacle or whatever.
You can go anywhere.
But I was like, nope, this feels very African.
This feels very African. And there were specific Lion King blurbs.
Oh yeah. Oh no. So I thought it was essentially, it's based on her album, which was inspired by The Lion King. Right. And so it seemed like it was very much telling a parallel, like a Lion King-esque parable.
Right.
Where this character gets lost and has to find himself and take back his legacy.
He's got to come back to be king.
Yes. And so, the idea that he gets lost in the world. And so at the very beginning, I want to make sure that I say, and once again, this is the therapist talking, I think when I saw the new Lion King, I saw it through parental eyes as opposed to when I saw it as a kid. And so I immediately thought, oh, there's a lot of values being taught in this.
So you thought of yourself as a Mufasa as opposed to a Simba.
Yes, I now saw it through the eyes of Mufasa, and how pretty much every line Mufasa says in the movie is hey, live your life this kind of way. Like,
this
you got
is what's important to be as a man, as a king, as a lion king.
Right. I want you to be, strong. The ancestors are in the stars.
Yep. I will always be there for you, whether I'm here physically or not.
Right. Even with talking to Scar and saying, you have a responsibility to me. It's very much a lot of it. I don't think James Earl Jones has a wasted line of dialogue in that movie.
Well, and I think too, and of course, I've been a huge fan of Lion King. When you met me, the Lion King, the original cartoon was big deal to me.
Heavy rotation.
Definitely heavy rotation. We've owned the VHS and the DVDs, and now the digital copy.
And Disney Plus.
And Disney Plus.
We are full and hock to the Disney Corporation.
Right.
To our Disney overlords.
Yes. Take all my money. It's fine.
Not all of it. I need some of it to eat. In thinking for both of us, we need some of that money too.
Okay. I mean, that's why you're the numbers guy, right?
Right. So, even the first song, Bigger, to get back on Beyonce, like Bigger spoke to me as a parent when I heard it originally. And then again to hear it was like, yeah, okay, she's trying to teach her kids. Like, I think Beyonce's
something more bigger than
than
you, bigger than me and you, bigger than us. There's particularly when you think about the fact that young Black children often, particularly for those of us who grew up in the 70s and 80s, did not have a lot of role models as far as people who had achieved a level of success in society, because if you think about the 70s and 80s as they were happening, people were just now getting out of the civil rights movement and able to attain any measure of success in America. Right. And by American standards.
Right. By American consumerist capitalist standards of what is success and the ability to maneuver within the system with a certain amount of financial freedom and autonomy. We were just getting into that, right? We were just developing, ideally, the Black middle class. Right. And so we did not have a lot of role models. There were a lot of role models, like, white kids had Indiana Jones. They had Gordon Gekko. They had all these. You could be successful and free
so
and
are you
capable.
Specifically speaking of entertainment?
I'm specifically speaking in terms of entertainment.
Right.
Yes.
Because
Beyonce is an entertainer. So
political activism and things like that.
Yeah, absolutely.
We've had tons.
Yes.
But when we're talking about sitting down in front of the TV, we were both born in the late 70s.
Right.
There are very few of us.
Right. And
as
so
role models on TV, in movies and things.
And so
like
even
that.
like seeing Black art and Black artists, Black presenters,
very rare.
Right. So we had Eddie Murphy and Michael Jackson, and we had a lot of people who were capable, and who were essentially at that point breaking down barriers.
Right.
And then, what often happens when you have a movement like that, it gets saturated. There's a lot more entertainment available. But it isn't always giving out the best messaging, right? Like there's a lot more Black people on TV, but a lot of those Black people are VH1 stars and, love and hip hop / mothers and daughters and wives of people.
For my stuff.
I'm not coming for it so much as I'm saying maybe it's not the best representation.
I agree.
Not necessarily. Okay, so best is a value statement. So I'm going to backtrack on the word best. There is an audience for it. There is a value to it. It is empowering a certain type of people.
We're entertained. But if we're talking about
it shouldn't be the only message.
Value, and we're talking about imparting a message, and we're talking about gaining something from watching it.
Yes.
There's definitely
and feeling a certain level of fulfillment.
Yes.
Okay, this has given me a sense of cultural pride.
Did you not feel fulfilled when you watched Beyonce as King?
I felt pride.
You felt an immense amount of pride. You felt strength. You felt, okay, you know what? We have the ability to do better, be better, show better, raise our kids.
Yes.
This is important.
And there's even a key thing she says in there, and particularly in Bigger, where she's talking about taking my own advice.
Yeah.
And what resonated with me with that was, as parents, we are not only raising our children to the best of our ability, but we are also raising ourselves as we identify as both parent and child, right? And particularly in our generation, there's a lot more of us being able to resonate with what the child feels. There's a lot more work and conversations around. My parents weren't necessarily as concerned with how I feel. They felt they had a responsibility, and their understanding there was,
in school,
I needed to keep with what their agenda was. As we talked about last time, like the idea that I entertain that my kids have agendas was not how my parents operated. They did not entertain my agenda. This is what was expected of me, and under a rule of law, I had to adhere to what was expected of me.
This is your job. Go to school, do what I'm asking you to do.
But in the 2000s, it's different to raise kids because you're supposed to be trying to sort of enrich them and grow them and nurture them. And so you're trying to figure out how to both be a parent and to parent your own internal child. And so we end up raising ourselves as we raise them. And so I see her giving this messaging in a way to help herself, that what she as a little girl needed
as a parent,
what she as a little girl needed to see, because she's got Blue Ivy all through the video.
She does.
So she's, her kid. I made a joke to myself as I was writing this down. Like, she made sure that her kid already has ASCAP credits, right? Like, she's got her kid is already in liner notes.
She's setting her up. Absolutely.
Which is valuable.
She's listed. Yes. And her participation is important.
And so I was going to say that my issues with Disney aside, I loved it.
Yes.
Even if I didn't 100% get every reference or every like,
Right.
what's the green guy for? I don't understand.
Well,
is he
yeah.
capitalism because he's shaped like a dirty
Right.
coin, like a brass,
There were so
like
many
the Statue of Liberty? Like I have questions, and I wish
Right.
someone educated could like sit down and help me understand. Like I would love the annotated
the notes of the
right. No.
director's cut of
VH1 used to have that show where they tell you all the things that's happening in the video. What was
Yeah.
that? The bubble show?
Yeah. Oh yeah. They pop-up video.
Pop-up video. I would love to watch the pop-up video version of this. And that's
Right.
me with a lot of videos and stuff like that where
Well,
I know
because
the
you're
artist
trying
had
to
a vision.
understand
Yes.
what exactly is happening. And there's so much. It is so incredibly layered with so
It's
many things.
so surreal.
It is absolutely
And that's
surreal.
not unusual with artists. They're
No.
often surreal. They're often not telling a
Particularly
linear.
with Beyonce. She's
Yes.
been layered for quite some time now.
Right. And very often, that's the way music works. Music isn't always, I went to the store, I bought a fish, I brought the fish home, I cooked it for my family. It's, they're speaking in metaphor and simile and all of that. And so this is very much a sort of rich experience of that.
Right.
And even though, like I said, I didn't get every reference or understand, I was very much like,
In.
I felt connected to it, even if I
Right.
didn't get it.
Right.
I was like, okay, I kind of know what that is. But
There's-
what's this thing that's happening?
Right.
And why?
Right. Well, and I think that's the interesting thing about it. Not only do you feel connected, you see yourself in some part of it.
Yes.
And then you're curious about the parts of it that you don't quite understand because
Right.
you feel like you should be connected to that as well.
Right.
And so there are so many parts where you're like, well, why is this guy blue? Why did they zoom in this way? Why did they,
Right.
why is this, okay, she's a zebra, but she's red and blue instead. Is this?
Yeah. And then later she is a full-on zebra. She's
a
dancing with the green guy.
full-on- Right.
And I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
And it's all this trippy imagery that seems powerful. And
It is. Why is she standing behind him? But then they're set side by side.
Yes,
You know that there are decisions behind why.
Yes.
Right?
And that was something you said before we started recording is, there was someone who came up with each of these decisions. And
Yeah.
what's that like to be the person who creates this type of art? Where you're like, and then this, and splash on this color, and they should all be wearing like those guys in purple suits. Like for me, man, there's a lot of
Those
handsome
guys
blackness on
were
display
in purple suits
with their
but then
chests
the
out.
shade of purple behind them was a different shade of purple.
And I don't understand color theory well enough to
I
like
don't
say
either,
what was going
but
on
it
there.
meant something.
But it meant
Colors
something, and
mean
it was
things.
beautiful. Like it
was
touched me, even
beautiful.
though I didn't understand. I'm like, oh wow, that looks like powerful, beautiful
does,
imagery.
Yeah.
Like the people in the black and white as
Yeah.
chess people. I was like,
Yes.
these people are beautiful.
Well, then the king and then the queen, and they were playing a physical
Game of chess.
and the king walks up
Yeah.
to the queen, and it's just absolutely beautiful.
Yes.
And let me just say this too, like I love all shades of black.
Mm-hmm.
And it is
Black is beautiful.
Black is absolutely beautiful. Black is king.
Yes.
I loved seeing so many different shades of black. I loved seeing
Yes.
the chocolate people,
Mm-hmm.
the cheekbones, the
I'm with you,
short
I'm with
hair,
you.
the
So much
long
beauty.
hair, the caramel,
So much
the
black
in
beauty.
between. It's so beautiful. It's
Mhm.
just
So much mood. I will say that. Like one of the things about
Definitely
all that surreal, it definitely had it
Definitely
evoked a mood.
mhm.
And then she's got that one song which is basically Mood Forever, or
Yeah.
which is her one Jay-Z song.
Yes.
Where G shows up, and then she's singing in full Jay-Z, like they're singing about being rich, which I feel like is
They
basically
can do what
stunting
they
on you
want.
hoes kind of thing,
We
like
can do what we want.
which I always have mixed feelings about because of my feelings about capitalism and how
Right, but you know what? I think they're using their platform in a way that is
But
so
she's-
beneficial for us.
she's calling people small in the song.
She's not. She's
She-
saying
no, she
we've gotten
says-
to the part. She's gotten to the point in her life where
She ain't
I
gotta
can
listen to
do
you
what
little people.
She doesn't.
And
But
I
she's-
agree,
She's not talking to us.
but I also feel like you're telling me let them eat cake. So that there's a part of me that
But
just reacts
them,
to that.
Who's them though? Who's them?
How do I know it's not me?
It's not.
She don't
you.
know me individually.
It's not you because you are represented in her
there's
world.
there's a weird
She's
thing that
you.
happens if you start saying the people who disagree with me are small and petty.
The people who disagree with
Her haters.
are the haters, and we know who the haters
But
are.
I feel like that also lends itself to narcissism. So that's where I go, ooh, should we be doing that? And I already know you're richer than a certain populations of people. And when you're a black person that does that, I know we love it. Black people love it.
Black people love it because she's not.
I mean,
talking to
Jay-Z
us
wouldn't
when
have
she
gotten that
says-
rich without
No.
being able to tell people how rich he was.
No, But they're not.
And people eating it up.
The interesting thing is they're not using their platform to pop bottles in some Atlanta club.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
They're
I mean, not that there's anything wrong with that, but I just think I get icky when you start rapping, or that's the me who went through.
I got those so much dough.
Right. As the person who went through the 90s and was still remained staunchly backpack conscious rap, pretentious, right? I felt myself really like, oh, don't do this, Jay-Z. Like, I remember, 404 Jay-Z, who's like introspective and thinking, and as a longtime, say, Fonte fan, Little Brother, Foreign Exchange fan, who, he raps about how hard of a rapper he is, but he never raps about outshining guys with money because he's middle class workman like rap, right?
True.
Very and Jay-Z is very much, I got things that you'll never be able to buy in places you'll never be able to stand. And I'm like, and there's a part of me that, particularly at 40, like, yeah, okay, honestly, I get it. I knew that. And I hate you for it a little bit. There's a little part of me that like,
there's a part of you that
loves your success, but hates you for being like, there's that jealous, okay, whatever. You don't have to throw it in my face.
I think there are people like
Bill Gates don't walk up in the place with diamonds in your face, right?
He does not. He's got his t-shirt and his slacks on.
Right.
And
right.
I get that.
And thoughts about Bill Gates. I have thoughts about so many people and things, and none of this is gospel, but I'm just saying, Mood Forever. Here's the thing. I think it's a jam.
It is.
Donald Glover shows up on it, I think, and I'm like, oh, Donald Glover's on a song with Jay-Z now. Like, thank you. Childish Gambino has risen to the top.
We love Childish Gambino.
Have loved Childish Gambino since back in the day. We loved Childish Gambino back when I was downloading his mixtapes.
Cul-de-sac, boy.
Right. There's quite a few of those songs I can quote.
Yes.
But
we both could. Yes.
Yeah. But to get back to so my feelings and thoughts about capitalism aside, I'm still liking the song. There are people who are upset at her for having a white butler, but why does it matter that he's white?
Honestly,
years of black butlers never bothered anyone. But she has a white butler in a project, and they're like, how dare she go full racist?
The interesting thing about it is I had not seen Black is King until last night, but I had seen people being upset about the white butler, and honestly, I knew that was a part of the video before I watched it, and even as I'm watching it, I still missed it.
Yeah. Because it happened in Mood Forever.
It happened in Mood Forever. I get that, but I'm so busy looking at Kelly Rowland.
Well, you're not.
Okay. I'm looking at Beyonce. I'm looking at all these
wonderful Kelly
people,
Rowland. Let's shout out to Kelly Rowland for a moment here.
She can't hear you say hi.
Hi, Kelly Rowland. If you ever listen to this, I'm just saying hello. And I've been a fan of your work for a very long time.
Fan of her
work.
Fan of her
Kelly
work.
Rowland.
Is
Simply
that what
Deep.
we're calling it?
I loved Simply Deep. Like a train over a track. All right.
No, listen, that album was all the things. But is it her work that we're...
Yeah, I'm a fan of her work. I think she's a beautiful woman.
Right.
And I'm also a fan of her work. And so I was very happy to see her show up in the video. I was also happy to see Ebony Williams, who worked with on Put a Ring on It, who was in the video for Put a Ring on It. That's the beautiful black woman who many said was a transvestite man. Like, people said horrible things about her because she's got some strong cheekbones and a very strong physique, and she's just a gorgeous.
Your repertoire, baby.
Yes. If you've seen my wife, then you know I'm a big fan of strong chocolate woman with cheekbones. And maybe some good sharp arms. So which is why it's not unusual that maybe I would want to shout out a Kelly Rowland and or Ebony Williams. And maybe have been looking for them to be in the video. Was happy to see them there. That's all I'm saying.
You enjoyed it.
I enjoyed it. I definitely enjoyed seeing. And so I was like, hey, shout out to Kelly for getting to be in the brown skin girl video.
Well, and
then they're having this very intimate moment. She's like saying it to Kelly in the face, and I'm like, oh, and they're smiling at each other.
You can tell that they are looking at each other as sisters, as girlfriends,
as mothers,
Yes,
and I did want to say that too.
As women who have grown together since they were teenagers, that means a lot.
Yes, to have those people.
Yeah.
We often talk about how as parents, having other parents we can talk to about parenting is just.
Because Kelly has a kid as well. She's married with a child.
Right. And so as you're going through these things in your life, it's good to be able to have another person you can look at and be like, isn't this a trip?
Oh, wow. Look at this, right? Yeah. Well, and I think there's something particularly beautiful about a Beyonce telling a Kelly, your brown skin is beautiful.
Yeah.
As a chocolate woman, I'm very chocolate.
Yes.
There are so many things between the 70s and the 80s where you just, you're made fun of for being darker than everyone else. There's the colorism thing. And I'm sure that's another conversation we can have.
We should totally have a conversation about colorism
another day. Yes. I'm chocolate, but Richie is caramel. I like to use food because I feel like food is something that everybody can relate to.
Yeah.
Because I think there are so many derogatory terms that are used when we're talking about.
And there are people who have issue with comparing chocolate or black skin to food. They feel like that dehumanizes us to a degree. And I hear those concerns.
I love chocolate and I love caramel.
I feel like it's something that you can, in many ways, just sort of, we've learned to have a value in it. It's hard to uncouch the language. Yeah. And even if you tell us, oh, people don't like that, it's like, oh, but I like it. So I
feel like there's something so much more derogatory about I'm dark skinned and you light
dirty
skin,
brown,
like dirty brown.
Yeah,
but that's, maybe that's something I still have to deal with, but I like saying chocolate. I like saying caramel. I like the idea. And
you should be able to. In a perfect world, you're able to use whatever language you want.
True.
So I don't think that's one of the things that you have to go, well, I'm never doing that again. I think.
Right. But, just as a description for those who don't know what we look like, I am very dark skinned. My husband is very caramel. My mother is the same collection as you, as your mother.
Yeah.
And so
because black people come in all shades and shapes.
People come in all shades.
And it's all beautiful.
And all of my children are different shades of caramel, the light caramel, the dark caramel, the chocolate. The summer is different than the winter, honey. Yeah. That's the way this works, right? And it's all beautiful. And I think for those of us who have been chocolate, we, and I'm only speaking to my experience, of course. There has been less said about our beauty. And so for her to say to her, your skin is beautiful, because everybody loves Beyonce. Beyonce is beautiful.
Yes,
absolutely beautiful. She meets a standard of beauty, that
an aesthetic standard. Yes,
she meets a standard that everybody can kind of relate to, right? And I absolutely, I don't take any of that from her. I think she's beautiful. Listen, keep that donk going, girl. 3 kids, you look great. Okay.
Yeah, she does have her mom weight on.
She does.
She looks great.
She's got her mom weight on.
As a person who loves a woman with some mom weight on her.
Listen, I got 3 kids too, baby.
Right. She's looking good.
Get into it.
I do think so. I want to say that there's some value in the same woman who made the song "Pretty Hurts" also making brown skinned girl a sort of once again enriching beauty.
Well, and she's speaking to how she was raised as a kid.
Yes.
Right. And she's speaking to how there's this beauty standard that even she felt like she couldn't keep up with. And honestly, there's the thin versus fat and all that kind of stuff. She had to deal with that. She had to deal with her skin color. I mean, she's too light for some crowds, too dark for other crowds. Yeah. I completely understand that there is something with the way that she has to be, right? When you put yourself in that position and you become a Beyonce of the world, there are so many things that you deal with as far as marketing yourself and trying to be as crossover as possible. And I really honestly believe she's gotten to the point where she is who she is. She's from Houston. She's going to do what she needs to do because she's so talented. Okay.
Right.
And let that be what it is. Right.
Yes.
And I also think that somebody in that position who has been so coveted at this point, to say to a Kelly Rowland, to say to a Lupita.
Yeah. Because she could also make it about just her. She could be like, hey, I'm the most beautiful person.
She could, but she doesn't.
Right.
She reaches out and she says, all of my sisters are beautiful.
Right.
And especially my dark sisters who never get the light that they deserve.
Right. And so in some way she comes off as that girl who you want to be friends with. I don't know if I said that before. You want to be friends with who's going to not just say, hey, I think I'm pretty, but I think you're gorgeous too.
There could be multiple pretty girls in the same room.
Right. And so I was going to say that I feel like so many of Beyonce's catalog has spoken to where she is in her life. With Lemonade being, who she was. She made the album right after her dad. She found out about her dad.
Well, right.
Her dad's issues.
Right.
Which was very angry.
Before that was like, okay, she's trying to come into.
Yeah. And was Beyonce the one she made after she got married?
Yes.
Yeah. And so in that, she's speaking about being a wife in a way and being loved and enjoying being loved. So like This one is definitely she's a mom of 3 now.
Yep.
And she's got some things to say.
She's got some things
to make sure, some wisdom to impart upon her children. The things she wants her children to know and love about themselves.
Right.
And so much of that album and then the fact that she's pulling in these African rhythms that I don't fully get. Like there's many of the people singing the songs. I'm like, this is the first time I've ever heard this person's voice.
Right. But she pulled them in and she said, this is important.
Yeah.
What they're saying is important.
Yeah.
I want them to be a part of this.
Yeah. And I get it. Like I said, I don't understand all of it. Some of it was not necessarily unreal, but like just not natural, not within my zone of the things I listen to or get or the visuals. I'm like, what's happening? Why?
Definitely.
Why is there a horse in a garage? Like, why are they? Why are they leaving their wedding on a horse in a garage slope?
So many visuals that you don't quite.
Yeah. Why is the green guy dancing? Did she dance with the green guy? And they're hitting them. They're hitting those marks, boy. Also, I will say we've talked a little bit about it. I'm a little autistic. I don't understand dancing. I don't know why dancing is a thing. She loves it. She could watch dance. She loves those dance competition movies. She could watch those literally every Saturday. Whereas I'm like, what are they doing? That's so served. Why did everyone go, ooh, I don't understand. Did he get served? Like what was the thing?
Totally got served.
Yes. I don't understand. Yeah. And so throughout it, I'm like, she's doing a lot of cardio.
The importance of of the dancing that's in her video.
She's doing so much cardio.
It's so indicative of where she is.
Yeah.
In the country.
I mean, it's telling a story. Yeah, she's doing dances. Yes. And I inherently understand that as an idea.
Right.
But I'm going to tell you that I don't get it as me because I just don't understand why dancing.
Yeah.
That's just the Rich Hall thing. That's where one of his weird little corners are. Weird little blind alley of mine is.
There's so many dances there
why
are
dancing?
indicative of
What is
Nigeria.
What does that do?
Or Senegal or, that's we don't always get to see as African Americans in the United States. And she brought all of that into this. It was important to her.
Right. Any main criticisms before we go take a commercial break?
I honestly, I don't have any criticisms. I wish we had seen Sir and Rumi a little more.
Yeah, well, they're still young and she doesn't. It took her a while to show Blue to us because it should be private, right? They're her kids, and I can understand protecting my kids from the world.
Right. She dedicated it to Sir.
Yeah.
At the very end.
Right.
I probably will.
That's also another transition. Like she's got to go from being a mom and having a daughter, and then thinking of having a son is a different.
It's a different. Yeah.
Yeah.
We started out with a son, and so we started out with.
And then 2 boys in a row.
2 boys in a row. We're like, okay, we can do this.
And there's definitely a much longer conversation I have about that. Like, how do you parent the different genders?
There's
and
definitely
all those questions you ask of yourself when you're doing that.
Yeah. And then we have Victoria and we're like, oh.
And she's totally different than both people.
She absolutely is.
She's got little sprinkles of either. That's the thing with any kid. And I always say this whenever you have a kid, you get used to your first kid and you're like, okay, I think I understand kids. And then a whole nother person shows up and you're like, what am I supposed to do with you?
Completely different than the
Why
first
do you
one?
keep making your own decisions? Like be more like the first person I met.
Why aren't you like the first one?
Right.
So Daniel is an extrovert and Ra is an introvert. What?
Daniel's more of an ambivert.
He's an ambivert, but still.
Yeah.
I mean, wow.
Daniel's cuddly. Ra's not. Like
Daniel is very cuddly and Ra's like, I'll hug you once a week.
Right.
And we live for that moment.
So I left Mom's yesterday and I said, I love you guys. And Daniel's like, I love you. Come back and hug me. And Richie just looks at me and I'm like, I love you. And he's like, oh, okay. And I'm like, all right.
Scram. Shake a leg.
I was like, you're not in trouble or anything. I'm just expressing affection with you. Because often with him, I go into my own. He's a little robotic, so I give a robotic like, I have intended to express affection with you. I would appreciate a return, but if you don't feel like doing it now, that is also appropriate.
What do I do with my hands?
Right.
How does this work?
Right. Right. So sometimes I got to break down for him, like, so that you do not misinterpret or misread. I am going to explain to you parameter by parameter what I feel is happening. Do you comply? Right. And he's usually like, oh, okay.
All right.
Because he just sort of looked at me blankly like, okay.
I sent him a picture of Quinn today and he gave me a thumbs up.
Nice. Nice. Look at that. Take what you get.
Exactly.
Because that's all you're going to get. That's all you're going to get.
That's very good for him. Okay.
It was. That's
he responded.
Chef's kiss. That's great. Yeah. Magnificent. I'm going to say some criticisms and then we're going to actually take the break we just discussed, right?
Okay.
So criticisms. Beyonce is many things. She is not a depthful voice actor.
Absolutely true.
it's unfortunate that the machine that created Beyonce, that created this very talented performer, vocalist,
could not create an actress.
I'm sorry. She's had many attempts at the plate. She's not a great adaptable actress. I love her, right? I love what she does for the culture.
She's absolutely
but she should hand that job off to other people.
Yeah.
So when I keep hearing her read lines in the thing, I'm like, oh, Beyonce.
Someone else should have read the poetry.
Someone else. Every time James L. Jones at the mound, knocked it out the park. Right. So those Lion King quotes really helped in the voice acting department.
Yep.
But that's because James L. Jones is a talented thespian.
He's an actor.
Beyonce knows, unfortunately, not an actress. I love her though. I love you for so many other things. Please don't come for us, Beehive. Please don't, because I do love her.
We do.
But I think we all should admit to ourselves
that she does.
She's not a great voice actress.
Yeah.
And so that was my problem with The Lion King. I mean, if we want to talk further about The Lion King after the break or whatever, was beautiful movie, technical wizardry feat,
right? But
Beyonce as a voice actress, Yeah. So surreal, beautiful, magical, very much that big question of knowing who you are. What are you? Why are you? Knowing your history, knowing your lineage. And I think it's a piece of art that should exist.
Yes.
And I am glad that it does exist. I could imagine that if I were a teenager right now, most of the girls that I would try to date would be watching it on heavy rotation, and I'd have to familiarize myself with it so that I would
be able to impress the ladies.
Right, to be able to impress the ladies. It felt like, oh crap, like this is one of those things that my clients are going to come in talking about. I guess I should need to know that this happened. And I don't have many young black female clients, but
it's important.
I'm going to tell the boys, you should make sure you watch that Black is King by Beyonce, because
right,
you're gonna come across the woman who's interested in it, who digs it, and who feels it, and just being able to bring it up. Just being able to bring it up in conversation is going to give you some points, my guy. Because that's the type of guy I am, giving out pointers to the guys to help them. And so I still have issues with Disney.
Eye roll, guys.
I still have issues with Disney and the commodification of black bodies, but I feel like Beyonce did her thing with this, and so I definitely say take the time to watch it. Sit with it, even if you don't understand what all the imagery's for or the why.
Watch it all the way to the end.
There's a lot of stuff being given to you that if you have even some understanding of your African heritage of blackness, then you're going to be like, oh, wait, is that? And so like later, I'm like seeing on the internet, like, oh, no, she's doing Anubis and she's doing Matt and she's doing like, oh, okay. Well, okay, so that was good. That's
the story of Moses.
Right. Which is actually there's another African tale that comes from actually. So there's an Egyptian tale and an African tale. So like there's a few. Once again, that we often think of those things in the Judeo-Christian that we've all been taught, but many of these tales go back thousands of years, and so our reference point is often, that happened to Moses. But in reality, there are once again. I can't remember the name of the tale right now, but I do know it attaches. It's attached to. It may have been interpolated. This is not blasphemy to say this. There are historians who agree that many of the stories from the Bible may have been interpolated from more historical tales that were passed down through verbal histories and not written histories. I'm not trying to say the Bible's wrong in any way. I still love my Jesus. But
we want to meet together in heaven. Okay?
Yes. Yeah.
All right.
Yes. It wouldn't be heaven if we didn't. She can only laugh at that because she knows me well enough to know I would make that joke no matter what. Okay, so we're going to take a break on that note.
On that note, we'll be right back.
All right. Okay, and we are back.
I'm back.
And we are talking for the second half about parenting and how we make decisions during a pandemic, particularly when it comes to this going back to school thing, which we've talked about, I think, on the last two episodes we've discussed this. So I know that for a lot of parents, this is sort of at the front of our minds as far as our current anxieties and how we handle making this decision and living with the decision. And I think Beyonce ends up being a good segue because, as I said, I feel like this album was made for herself and for her children, for her to sort of send this piece of information out into the world as a mother to her children. And so some of her parental anxiety is definitely inside the songs that are being sung. And so in that same way, we also are struggling with our own parental anxiety about how we raise our children during a pandemic and how we sort of provide for them, considering things are not what they normally are.
Right.
And I will say that, just to sort of open with, once again, a little bit of how I think. I've said it already in this conversation. I'm a hair autistic, right? So there's a part of me that's like, human behavior is weird. Why are we like this? And everybody else is like, we just are like this. And I'm like, but why? But why though? And so right now, I can't imagine taking a vacation because I don't need a vacation. There's no part of me that says this has to happen. Or I can't imagine, say, having to go into work every day. Now, I have risen to the point where I have the type of job where I don't have to be in an office every day.
Right.
And I'm actually supposed to go back to work tomorrow. So I'm supposed to be in the office 3 days a week, 2 to 3 days a week.
So there's an anxiety about that.
There is an anxiety about that.
On your side and mine.
Yes. Yep. About what will this be to have to be in a location where other people are?
What does it look like?
With
what
the
does it
risk,
feel like? Yeah.
Right, that comes with it.
Right.
And how do we navigate having to do that? And in that same way, and I don't know what to do with those feelings. I'm just going to go to work and stay in my office all day. And it's actually like normally the beginning of the year is the beginning of the school year. So there's a lot of introducing yourself to people, meeting people again for the first time. Our new interns come in tomorrow. Like there's so much newness that happens, so much introduction at a time when now
interaction is dangerous.
Human interaction is dangerous.
Yeah.
So what am I supposed to do? Well, and I know we're going to be doing a lot of that stuff via like Zoom and WebEx now,
right.
But still. Going to be different.
I did not know you guys were going to be meeting the interns.
So we're not actually meeting them. We're doing it all on Zoom.
Okay.
On WebEx.
Okay. I feel better about that.
Right.
If you're doing it in your office, away from other humans, okay.
Yeah, I will be large as far as I understand. I don't know. I've been keeping up with some of the email and group chats from work.
Right, and it changes.
It seems like people are just staying in their office and maybe having limited contact with other people. And everybody has this. As I said, this thing creates a lot of mental math for people.
It says to me, if you're going to be in your office and you're doing it via Zoom,
why don't I need to be in the building?
Exactly. Does it matter if you're doing it at Miami University or at Key Sport Kingdom? I mean,
right.
Yeah. So
right. So I very much don't know for sure.
Right.
But I'm going to go see what happens. And what I believe firmly in my heart of hearts is, and I've said this offline many times, we're going to all make an attempt at this as a society, as an American society, because the rest of the world figured it out. But America needs some extra shots to figure it out. They're going to need, we need to really hit our head on this one.
Well, with the current management,
Yeah, which, as I've said earlier, right now we're just under a bad boss situation. We've all been there, who've had multiple attempts at employment. You have that boss who's like, oh, you're sick, but your shift starts at 7 though, right?
Yeah, but you're gonna come in though,
You go still come in though. I know you said your kid might get sick, but you go still come in.
Car accident, you broke your leg, but
I mean, can you limp to work though?
7:30.
Can you limp to? So should I just have somebody cover for you for an extra hour, or
what's that look like?
What's it looking like? Let me know. Okay. I know. You said I hear the doctor talking to you now. So just I'll see you at 7.
Ooh, bummer. Cancer is bad.
I'll see you at 7.
Right.
Right. So as we think about that, it's like, well, okay, sending our kids to school, and parents have a very tough job right now. And I do not, and I've made this joke before, it is very interesting to see American society having to make single parent without healthcare decisions right now. Yeah. Because there's a lot of people who have to weigh I have to go back to work. If I don't work, we don't eat. They'll foreclose on the house. The rent's still due. But there is a much bigger than you or me or any of us situation happening right now. And we have to
literally life or death.
It could be.
Yeah.
There is a risk.
Yep.
There is a considerable risk. And the risk isn't even just death. It's you could be hospitalized for a good deal of time.
Correct.
Much in the same way that American capitalism often causes us to overwork ourselves, overclock to the point where our bodies break down early and we find ourselves falling apart. This is also asking us, thank you, puritanical work ethic. It's asking us to continue working in the face of possible death, right? And possible sickness.
For
for the system to continue moving as it always has.
We could always amend the system.
We could amend the system. So once again, that's where it may not require. You could change things.
Of risk.
It might not require this amount of risk, particularly for those of us, once again, who've made it to a place where I don't have to be there. I've gotten pretty comfortable sitting at this computer and doing therapy here.
Yep.
And my wife, she just needs a computer and internet connection.
Exactly.
We are at the most advanced. We are at a point in society where most things can be delivered to you quickly and efficiently.
Yeah.
And so if you don't have to, you don't have to.
Anywhere in the world and still do.
Unless you're the boss.
Yes.
Who feels like if I don't see my employees, they're not working. So I need them in the building.
Which is your problem, not mine.
Like that senator who, he was making those people go into work.
Yep.
He called him into a meeting.
Yep.
To say he had COVID. Like what kind of gall? Like I have a highly contagious disease.
Come meet me.
Everyone needs to meet me in this room.
To breathe my air.
To breathe my air so that I may tell you. I want to make sure it's personal because the way I understand society, if I don't make this personal, then it's not real. So I can't do this via email or text. I need everyone to convene in a room with me. The room can't possibly be big enough. We couldn't even take this meeting outside because I can't see another way to be.
I wish you could see the level of eye rolling that is happening as he tells this story.
I can't remember the senator's name.
I can't either, but I feel like the amount of eye rolling over on my side, I don't know about yours, is epic. I can't even see.
Louis Gohmert. His name is Louis Gohmert. I can't
even see because the eye rolling is so bad.
Right. It's just, so for me, it's like there are people who aren't seeing this for what it is.
They're not because they don't believe they're affected by it.
Yes.
And by the time they are affected by it, they're dead.
Right.
God rest their souls.
Right. Or just hospitalized. So one of the things I learned, because I do have family and friends who are, nurses and ICU doctors.
Yep.
My cousin is an emergency room doctor. Yep. Like they have a thing called turn team. And that person's sole job for the day, if you're on turn team, is to flip people over. And because the people who get sick are more often, there is a comorbidity with obesity and diabetes and those things. So that when a person gets sick, you can't leave them on their back because then fluid will accumulate in their lungs. Right. So you got to turn them. So there's a person whose job it is to come and just lift a heavier person's body to turn it so that it doesn't accumulate fluid. And they got to put all the gear on to do that. So they got to get head to toe, hazmat, mask, goggles, different masks.
To avoid bed sores. And
yes. But no. They just move you to avoid bed sores. The turn is like they got to turn you every couple hours. Like bed sores is just every day or so. Yeah, for COVID, you got to turn people regularly. You got to intubate them. They got tubes going down all in the faces and stuff. You can't hug them or touch them or comfort them. So if a person gets sick, they go without personal comfort, the comfort that is affection,
and the
physical
person
affection.
That is touching you has on 3 masks,
right? Gloves,
hazmat gloves,
goggles, face shield, yeah. And so while we think in terms of, people kind of have an idea of how hard that will be, humans by our very nature are very bad at assessing risk. Mm-hmm. We often underestimate the risks to ourselves. We believe there is higher risk for other people, but when it comes to us, we do not get it.
Right.
So in that same way, there's a lot of us making decisions right now with regards to this that are just assuming, well, I hope it don't happen to me. And there are many people who I totally get it. You have to go to work. You have to make decisions.
We're not talking about those people.
No.
We're absolutely talking about the people in positions of power and positions of decision making that are not considering how dangerous and serious this is and have never truly been affected by it and aren't considering the people that are affected by
it's not like a bad boss who just like, well, I mean, but I need a body in the seat, right? So just figure it out. And so they're making like, so I just recently read an article today that was talking about, I think it was in the Atlantic, that was talking about how many of the colleges are making these decisions and they're asking faculty and they're asking students because those are the people who are considered sort of that make the school, but they're not talking to the staff who serve food, who clean the floors, who can't leave. You know what I mean? They can't work from home. If there's no floor to sweep, they're going to get furloughed.
Right. And then they can't make money and then they can't.
But they're not included in the decision of how are you going to get these people
at all.
in the, what happens if these people are in the room, because they're still the most vulnerable population.
Right. And they're a lot of times the most important to keeping something afloat.
They keep the thing going. And it's easy for the people in power to sort of get into this place of,
numbers and
they're not as important.
Yeah.
But without try to run that campus for a week without any of those people, the staff and faculty.
Right.
The staff, non-faculty staff.
Well, and it's very similar to the schools, right? The teachers, they're asking the teachers to go back into the building.
Mm-hmm.
They're asking them to teach kids, less kids nonetheless, based on what I've seen from a number of different districts, but still, they're still taking a risk. They have their own families. They have their own children. And like you said before, Daniel's teacher got strep. And we know how to cure strep.
Right.
We know what kind of medicine to take for it.
Right. Strep is antibiotics, so it's actually easier.
The class out.
The entire class was sick.
Us out.
It ran through our entire house. Everybody got it in the house but me. Yeah.
You're not dying from strep, thank God.
People can.
But people can. But COVID is absolutely, they have less information about it.
Yes.
Right? So you're asking these teachers to go into these classrooms with these students of parents who are probably also essential workers who need to go out and work in order to feed their families, right? And we're asking them to take the risk. We're asking the janitors. We're asking the specials teachers. We're asking the front desk workers in the class. We're asking all of these people to take a risk when in actuality, when we knew this was bad in March, we could have said everybody can go on. We need to figure out the best way to handle school. We need to figure out the best way to handle the world that doesn't require human interaction. Right. We could have spent all of those
minimizing
that
human interaction.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like thankfully for us, we have the ability to work from home. You can work from home. I can work from home.
And we are blessed, privileged in that regard.
We absolutely are privileged, but there are people who are not.
Making decisions for people who can't. Yeah. The people who we don't want to pay more. Yeah. As American society.
But the people that are keeping
we call them essential, but we can't raise the minimum wage.
They have been essential this entire time that the country
way more essential in many ways. Way more essential than the politicians, because if they stop doing their job, the politicians get to take vacations. They've taken vacations.
They've taken many vacations. They're golfing. They're doing all these other things. But the people that are getting our trash.
And also don't assume that I'm speaking for once. I'm not red or blue in this regard. I feel like
doesn't matter.
Many of them have let us down because of infighting in politics.
They absolutely have let us down. Yes. There are people that are getting up every day. They're getting our trash. They're delivering our mail. They're delivering off our
so many Amazon packages.
All of the Richard. Yeah. All of the
don't judge
Amazon packages.
We are recording right now.
Consider yourself judged.
And so we understand that trying to make this decision
and everything that requires truck drivers, everything that requires drivers. There are so many essential things that happen to keep our country, our cities, our states running. They are taking a risk every day.
Yes. And we appreciate them for that.
We pay taxes for you guys to figure out a way to not put everybody at risk.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. Absolutely.
Not as a suggestion.
No.
Not as a suggestion.
Yeah.
But as law, as rule, as this is the best way to stay alive.
Right.
Because ultimately this is where we're at.
Right.
Right?
Right. No, I totally agree. And so as we try to figure out how to what we're going to do about school, it's, I saw the meme today and I sent it to you and you liked it on the Facebook. So dopamine hit, but it was,
I like all your stuff.
Not all my stuff. I know that. Don't lie to these people. It was talking about how parents on both sides are finding themselves struggling with, sending those kids back to work and being okay.
Yeah.
In part because we don't know. You're wrestling with the idea of, are they going to be okay mentally and emotionally versus physically? Am I putting them at risk? Because like I said, they may not die. Many of those kids may not die, but they're going to get sick.
Right.
A percentage of kids is going to get sick. It is unavoidable with something that could be so contagious. Right. And many of them are going to be hospitalized, so that's going to be a financial burden on families. If the kid doesn't get hospitalized, the parents will, because kids don't keep personal space. So even if at school, right? And I've said this out loud on my Facebook, but I'll say it here. Like, my weakest link is the one person who needs to go to school. That's Victoria. I love her. She's a lot. She's full on ADHD.
She is, and she's going to kindergarten.
And she's supposed to go to kindergarten this year, but we were so excited about kindergarten.
So excited.
If nothing else, because we lose that daycare tax.
Definitely.
Right. So so we suddenly got that money back in our pockets again from having to send her to daycare.
Right.
And aftercare is way cheaper.
But then she's in the school with the boys.
She was going to be going to school with the boys. So that's one drop off. Nicole was super excited about that. And then COVID happened. And nobody goes anywhere. And
now I have to teach her?
Now you have to teach her. You have to teach her the stuff yourself, the stuff you never intended.
World.
And my wife is not a teacher. She's actually, so she said this at the very beginning, and I'll say this on air live, it gets recorded forever. She is doing an amazing job, or has done an amazing job, stepping up to what she never thought was her calling, which was teaching our children. So I remember the first few nights of watching her try to teach Richie and Daniel
so hard.
Homework stuff. And now she has it down. She really can kind of get Richie into shape quickly. She's learned how to navigate his ADHD. I've got a lot more training in it, but I don't like teaching. I'm a therapist for a reason and not a teacher, because.
But you're a professor of college students.
So college students pay to be there. So if you don't want to do this, fine, don't do it. Adult who makes his decisions with autonomy.
Right.
Kids, on the other hand, it's like, now I have a responsibility to get this.
Your kids specifically. Right. I can't send my son into the world.
Right. Without knowledge and information. Yeah. So that's why I have a resistance to teaching, because I don't want to be the sole responsibility on whether or not you learn a thing or not. I did not
know that.
Yeah. That's
I knew that, but I didn't.
Yeah. So, with adults, it's like, oh no, if you pick it up, you pick it up. If you don't, you don't. Tell me why you didn't, and I'll help.
Your kids, it's like, you have to get this.
You have to get this. You got
2 times 2 is what?
Right.
No.
Don't just guess a number. You're guessing a number. Don't just guess. I need you to stop and think.
Listen, a letter is not an answer to 2 times 2. Please.
Stop saying I don't know. Stop saying I don't know.
Please.
Stop saying I don't know.
Understand that if you are teaching your kids at home and you've never been a teacher, that I understand.
Oh, so much love and empathy out into the world. Just give it, sending all the blessings to those of us who are going to be taking this on.
All the prayers.
Here's the thing: as a country, that's what we're doing now, right?
A lot of us are doing it.
Even if we go to school, what has changed with the way this thing is spreading? That even if these kids go to school, they won't get it at school. And that they won't shut schools down within a month anyway.
I think that's the interesting thing.
It's such wishful thinking.
It is incredibly wishful thinking.
Yes.
Let's talk about Indiana.
Indiana's in school right now.
First day at school. 6th grader. He had been tested a number of days before. But they excited. Not only did the parents decide to send them to school, which we understand those decisions are hard, right? They sent him to school or her to school. We're not sure of the gender necessarily, but they sent them to school. By the end of the day, they had received the results, and that kid had COVID.
Yes.
So what does that mean for the other students in the same class?
He'd been there for part of the day.
Had been there all day.
First day of classes.
Greenfield
Central Junior High School in Indiana.
What does that mean for the teacher? What does that mean for anybody that has come into contact with said student? Right. Wow.
They had first day. So they spent all this time coming up with their COVID test protocol. First day. Oh, we got to do it.
We got to
shut it down.
What we're doing. And shut the classroom down.
And then trace. They got to trace all the people who may have come in contact with them.
Tracing, because
including transportation. So that bus driver that day, if they went to
the bus driver, the students on the bus, the students in the class,
they got to call all these people. Yeah.
Anybody that's breathed the students.
Completely disinfect the classroom.
Right.
Sterilized.
Yep.
Right.
And that leads us to kind of what we have decided, specifically for our school district. We have been given the option to do in school or online.
Yeah. And
again, as Richie has said, I am not a teacher. I work from home now. Thankfully, I have the type of job that allows me to work from home.
Mm-hmm.
So the kids can be home at the same time as me. But let's be very clear, I still have a job to do. So
Yes.
in March, when they shut down the schools, we said, okay, we are going to online learn all of the kids until right?
Mhm.
We had no idea it was going to be until the summer
Yeah.
or until the end of this semester.
Mhm.
But we knew, okay, this is what we had to do. We accepted our fate. We started getting the kids set up. They had laptops and everything set up. And so we started online academy, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
We set up a station in our dining room.
Yep.
They did as much work as they could do.
Mm-hmm.
But in that time, I also still needed to do my current job, which it was very hard.
Mm-hmm.
Because not only was it a surprise for everybody, but it was a learning curve for everybody, essentially.
Yes.
We are going to be more prepared, but
Yeah.
we have chosen online academy for a number of reasons. First things first, their health is paramount.
Yes. Yes.
While they may not be while they may not get COVID and get sick,
Mm-hmm.
they may breathe on one of us.
Yes.
And
So
get
once
sick.
again, daughter is the weakest link. So
Absolutely.
maybe at school they could put her in some kind of bubble where she walks around and doesn't touch
Mhm.
anybody. But here's the thing about when she comes home, she's going to be all up in our face.
All day,
When I had
all night.
COVID, she was all up in my face, and I'd be like, "You have to get back."
And it was so hard because we had to train her to put her mask on,
Mhm.
to wash her hands, and she got it. She understood it.
But even then, there were all these moments where it could have been transmitted to her
Yes,
because
And
she's this little kid who
because you
forgets
never
things,
know.
and she's just used to climbing in my
And
lap
she's
whenever she
5.
wants. Yeah,
She's 5.
right.
And
And that's asking a lot of a 5-year-old
the kid
to have a CDC level of
thought.
germ prevention.
Yes.
You know,
We
safety
can't-
precautions.
Listen, I mean, and quite
I almost walked into the store today without my mask on. I was driving to the store and there was an accident out front of Meijer. And so when I pulled into Meijer, I'm like, kind of like, oh, I hope that lady's okay. I start walking up to the store and I'm like, wait, something's weird.
I don't have my mask.
Shit, that mask. Ah, walk all the way back to the car to
You're
get the
a
mask.
full-grown man.
I'm a full-grown man who knows this routine now, loves
You
the routine
do.
in a way.
You
When I
have a
tie my mask on, it's
You
like
have
I'm
the
Batman,
gloves.
right?
You have the sanitizer.
I'm like, okay,
You-
Batman, get ready to go to the store.
I'm going to get groceries for the family.
Time to scavenge. Right. So to ask her every time, I took them to the dollar store yesterday and they're touching their mask the whole time.
And it was the biggest risk we've taken all summer.
It was
quite
one of the biggest
honestly.
risks to go into the dollar store to
They've
let
been
them just buy a
asking
thing.
A lot of things.
And it's hard not to just be like, okay, everybody out of here as fast as possible. And
right.
so here's the thing. We want them to have an enriching, as any parent, there are things you want them to learn,
Yeah.
and you want them to have this enriched childhood where
Yeah.
they have some freedom and develop the
And some
autonomy they
fun
need to be adults and experiences.
Yep.
And we all have the idea of what that means
Yeah.
in our head. And right now, that idea is not what we thought it would be.
Right.
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 And there are many people struggling with, will this
What that
scar them
means.
forever?
Yes.
Look, I'm a doctor who has done child development for more than 10 years at this point.
PhD, baby.
Yeah. And
Been a
so
long
I will
road.
tell you, kids are only prepared for the world we create for them. And much of what we think is important, they do not think of as important. Try to sit your kid down and make them watch a movie you love, like say Back to the Future,
Oh my
and see how
gosh.
quickly they get out the room or they are just uninterested.
Benji,
We think
Lion King.
Right. You're trying
Keep
to
naming
give them these
movies.
gems that you think are so valuable to you because they shaped your childhood. That's not their
Mhm.
childhood. They can watch YouTube videos of people playing video games way longer than they'll
Or
ever
watch
want to
people
play video
open
games.
Toys.
Toy boxes, right?
What?
And so to me, that says if they were in the frontier times able to keep children alive and fed and healthy so that we could, eventually evolve from, the cavemen could raise children in caves with sticks and mud
In imagination.
and imagination, then our kids will be fine if they just have to stay in the house another 6 months, 8 months, maybe a year. I don't know. I genuinely don't know. It's a weird place to be to not know, but I can resolve to say, okay, we can do this. And that even though they won't have all the socialization they're used to or that they want or that we would like for them to have, they don't have to have it and they'll develop okay. Children are very flexible, very elastic.
Very resilient, right?
Very resilient.
Right.
And so, yeah. If 100 years ago, frontier me, and you know, there's an issue of racism there that I can't ignore. Right. Would they have given me a plot of land? But if I could have had a plot of land somewhere and brought my children with me, I would have never stopped to worry, like, well, keeping them in the house in this on this frontier with nothing but horses and cows, is that gonna harm them? Nah, they'll be fine. No
TV, no cell phone, no video game.
Right.
And I think
now they have all that stuff.
Well, and that's the interesting thing about the way that we grew up.
Right.
And the way that our kids are growing up. Quite honestly, we didn't have video games.
No.
We were sent
outside. I did eventually. But yeah, you had to go outside.
Well, no.
So what were summers like?
For their age right now.
Yeah. For
Ron's
our age,
10,
yes.
Daniel is 8.
Yes.
And Victoria
we weren't even as
5.
observed as often as they were.
We were not.
My mom would send us out back.
Send us outside.
With a jug of Kool-Aid that would get warm throughout the day.
Oh, you guys got Kool-Aid.
Well, so that we didn't go back in the house. You either had to drink from the hose or you got a jug of Kool-Aid that got warm.
Oh, so you got Kool-Aid.
Right.
Right.
And be outside all day. Don't be going in and out using up my AC.
No. You're not coming in and out.
Don't come back in this house.
Don't come back in until the lights, the street lights go off. Figure out, and I feel like we've both had those conversations with our kids where we didn't have toys. We were very creative. We played in the dirt. We did all these other outside activities during the summer.
Yeah.
And we used our imagination to do a number of things. And we were resilient. Our kids will be resilient, thankfully.
Yes.
And they will live in the world that we've created for them. And that we've, modified for their, optimal growth.
Development.
Yes.
And that they can develop in this circumstance. I know a lot of parents are worried. Like, is my kid going to be okay? The kids are going to be okay.
The kids will be fine. That's a different story.
The adults are going to be stressed.
We're going to have to adjust.
And worried.
Yes. But quite honestly, I am not as concerned about, having to homeschool them as I am about having to send them to a place where they're going to have to get tested regularly and then possibly have to come back and learn how to do online learning. And, it's a good amount of change. Ra is definitely...
there's some concerns about Rob because of his learning development.
He does, and
learning disability. Yeah,
he's change averse.
Yes,
he likes to know what he likes to know.
Yeah.
I've had a conversation with all 3 of the kids together about the fact that they won't be going back into the school building.
Yeah.
So, and then I had another conversation today with them to say, listen, we're going to get the basement together. We're going to set up school. They'll be fine. I am trying to get fine with it.
And she's trying to wrap her mind around it. It's very interesting. I love this woman, but watching her stress over this, and I'm trying so hard to be supportive.
It's hard to wrap my head around. Something that I don't know how it's going to work. Again, I'm really only speaking to kindergarten, right? Yeah. Spring quarter for the boys. I understand Google Classroom. I understand the Zoom meetings.
Yeah.
They already have their devices. For the most part, you get them set up. You help them through their tasks. So
the spring prepared us for the fall.
Right.
We mentally know most of what we're getting into when it comes to this remote learning.
Third grade and 5th grade. Yes.
The kindergartner, no matter what. I mean, and honestly, as I've said with Victoria many times, one day we'll just do the all Victoria podcast. But like she we were never prepared for Victoria.
No.
She was always a surprise at every turn. And once again, even in the transition to school, it's just, her life is not going to happen like the boys' lives have happened.
Right.
And if we commit ourselves to, every time we think we have a handle on what's going to happen next with her,
it changes.
Something's going to change globally, personally.
Yep.
It's never going to be the same for her.
Yeah.
And she's totally fine. Like I said,
fine.
Nicole's her best friend, so she's loving getting to spend all her time with her best friend. She's told me multiple times she's married to my wife and I'm nobody. It's a joke she likes to play. She loves it.
Yes, apparently Victoria is married to me, and that you are just.
And sometimes I'm their kid, or she's got such elaborate tales.
She does,
and I just sort of go, yeah, sure, okay, whatever.
Yeah,
but she's having a great time, and that's the thing with kids. They'll, Richie gets bored sometimes. He tells me he's bored. I don't like kids telling me they're bored. That's a whole nother thing. Once again, a product of my upbringing is you don't have to. I do too much for you to tell me you're bored. Right. I'll give you something to do.
Go down to the basement and get the Encyclopedia Britannica and write me a report.
Right.
That's
Since you're bored. When
you say you're bored.
Right. Oh, I got some cleaning you can do. Cleaning you can do. These baseboards definitely need to scrub.
Laundry says
them dishes just sitting there.
Right.
Trash and you bored.
Says you're not.
The trash.
Bored.
Oh, you got all that trash. Your room ain't clean, but you bored.
The Legos on your floor say you're not.
So come back to me when that stuff is done, and then maybe I'll find some entertaining things for you to do. But overall, they're fine. And for those of you out there listening who are also worried about your children, they will be fine.
Yeah.
We don't. Like I said before, when I was talking about Beyonce and I was talking about how, she tried to create something that she wanted in her world because she didn't have it, right? There was so much that we didn't have that they now have access to by virtue of what we've done as parents, what you've done as a parent to prepare a better world for them. And right now there's a lot more that's out of our control, and that's scary. That's anxiety provoking.
But they're living in a better world.
And you are doing better for them. And they will outgrow this. There are children who've gotten through literally holocausts and wars and famine and depressions and drought. And right now is just a pandemic. It's happened in the span of human history before. And humans weren't irrevocably, some of them were irrevocably scarred, but humanity wasn't scarred. More often than not, we come out on the other side more empathetic, more industrious, more hardworking and frugal, and we get better, stronger, faster. Right. So they're going to be better than us as a result of this experience, because they always are.
Right.
And so that part of you that's really worried about what this decision is going to be, whether you send them to school or whether you don't, I believe that school's not going to last very long, because we're going to get more of those kids showing up with COVID. Right. The test hasn't come in yet, or they've been there all week and now they find out they have it.
Right.
We're going to get outbreaks. That's going to be the reality of it. I think school's going to shut down. I think if we're still in school in October, it will be a miracle. And I will be the first on this podcast to say, man, I'm glad I was wrong.
Yeah.
But I also would like to be the person who says, I think we could avoid this if we just find a different way. If we say it does not have to be the way we think it does, we can instead find a new way.
Right.
And as a result of that, do things better.
Yeah.
So I strongly believe, for those of you who are making the choice to send your kids to school, I don't think you're wrong. I don't think you're bad. I think you're doing what you need to do. It's a hard decision to make.
It's definitely
for those of you who are transitioning yourselves to keep your kids home, God bless you too. Like we're in that boat with you, and we're all just trying to figure it out and do what's best for our children, because they are the thing we love often more than we love ourselves. Like I love them selflessly.
Yes.
Right. So I want what's best for them, no matter what.
Do anything for them.
Right.
And
whatever
you decide,
you're deciding what's best for you.
You're deciding what's best for you.
And that's good.
Situation. Yeah.
Do what you got to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
And let me just say this too. I am a prayerful woman. I believe that God hears us. I believe that he takes us through these difficult times. And I believe that, there are things to gain from getting through these type of difficult situations.
Yes.
And so we'll be fine. The kids will be fine.
Mm-hmm.
Keep your communication with God going. All the prayers, I know he's hearing us. And I honestly, the mindset of getting from the situation the best, we get to be home with our kids, right? A lot of us, we struggle with the guilt of being away from our kids so much, right?
Yeah.
And not being able to have those moments.
Yeah, we've had a lot of moments being home with them.
We've had a lot of
that we wouldn't have had. Like I said, I've learned my kids so well.
Moments. Exactly.
I now have a much better predictive algorithm of my children now that I'm home with them, because whenever they do stuff now, it's like, oh, this is why. Like,
it sounds so technical, but it is definitely
once again.
Yeah, it's definitely, who they are.
Yeah,
right?
By virtue of just spending so much time with them.
Yeah, and that feels good, right?
Yeah.
There's
I feel more
something-
connected with them.
Yes.
I mean, even Richie, who, makes it difficult by virtue of being just sort of
He does.
a quiet weirdo, but I was a quiet weirdo growing up. So there's a part of me that also even understands that. And that's why I'm often like, I will break this down per algorithm. Like these are the
Right,
variables that are
right.
occurring here.
I get
and this
why
is
you're
all
doing
I
what you're
expect
doing. Yeah,
of you.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, feeling so much closer to them. It's it's frustrating. I want them to go away
I feel like if we could put them
Anywhere.
in spacesuits or
and send them out into the world to forage.
Honestly, I'm at the point where if we could all go to the beach together,
Yes. Yeah.
I wouldn't mind you guys being there.
Mm.
Mm,
Mm.
mm.
So we've come around the bend
Yes,
on the end of the episode.
we have.
Um,
Thank you so much for staying.
yes, thanks for
joining
sticking
us.
around with us. I hope this was an entertaining
Yeah.
conversation. This is episode 3.
Episode 3.
Yes, called The Kids Are All Right. And
Yours and ours.
right.
Thank you so much. You know what the music means.
You know what the music means.
I say good day, sir.
I say good day. The Hallspace Podcast is brought to you by Hall Productions, LLC. Show notes and credits can be found on our webpage, thehallspacepodcast.com. Any questions, comments, or concerns can be sent to us at thehallspace@gmail.com. The show is written by Daggerpin Davis. Music is curated by DJ Cabal. The show is produced by Chuck Jones and recorded at Slash and Trash Studios. If you like what you hear, please be sure to like, share, and subscribe. And I hope you all have a good week. House Hall. We rise brilliantly.